Welcome back. As inflation grips the country, we're all looking for ways to stretch our money and our investments. Lately, there's been a lot of talk of the I-bond. Gilmore Jason Mahler CPA Charlie Hyde is here to help us better understand how they work. Charlie, let's start at the beginning. What exactly are I-bonds? I'm going like James Bond here.
I love it. So I-bonds are nothing more than U.S. Treasury savings bonds. People might be familiar. There's the double E U.S. savings bonds. There's the I-bonds. And what's important and why these are really in the news today is I-bonds are set up to help curve or make the cash you have keep up with inflation. And as we've seen inflation continue to rise, the I-bonds, the way they work is you purchase a bond and they have a composite rate. That composite rate is made up of two components: a fixed rate, which never changes through the life of the bond, and then there's an inflationary rate that adjusts twice each year, once in May, once in November. So here's the key. Today, if you bought an I-bond today, the interest rate on that bond through October would be 9.62%. I don't know about you, but that's a great return.
Yes.
Can't find that in any savings account you've got at a bank.
I think I get like 0.25% or something silly like that in a savings account.
Now, there are some things with the I-bonds people need to be aware of. And one of those items is that you're tying up your cash for at least a year. You cannot cash out a bond for 12 months after you've purchased it. Then you're allowed to, but if there's a penalty associated in the 2 to 5 year range, and that is you're going to lose the previous 3 months of interest if you cash it in before 5 years. Okay. After 5 years, you can cash it in and collect all that interest at that time.
Okay. Now, how do I go about buying one of these? I go to the bank, how do you do it?
No, it's great. So you can go out to Treasury Direct, go out to their website. You can buy, those are what are called electronic bonds, and you can buy up to $10,000 annually in these bonds, and that's on an individual basis. Then there's the other possibility. If you've got an overpayment that you're going to have on your 2021 return that hasn't been filed yet, you can actually take that overpayment, that refund, and rather than having the cash sent back to you, you can purchase I-bonds, an additional up to $5,000 on your tax return by including a different form to make those purchases. Those are called paper bonds, and they'll be mailed to you. So that makes you being able to put $15,000 in a year in these Series I bonds.
Okay, so let's talk about taxes, though, because we know that the government always needs a cut here. So are there taxes associated with this?
There are. So you will pay federal income tax on the interest that you've earned on these bonds. And you can either elect to pay it as it's currently being earned, because remember, it's just adding to the principal that you've paid, or you can wait and pay it all when you cash out the bond. So there's a deferral component you could take advantage of. The big benefit to these is they're tax-free at the state level because it's U.S. federal interest. It's tax-free for Michigan, Ohio. Any state is not going to be able to tax the interest you earn on these I-bonds.
Okay, so that's something there. So would you say that this would be a good investment strategy?
I would, especially as we see inflation going up.
Yeah.
Again, it's not a long-term investment strategy. This is a short-term investment strategy that if you've got cash sitting on the sidelines, as some of us may have, and you don't need it in the next, 5 years, this is a great way to get a great return, in a very short time. You clearly don't want to be investing in I-bonds if you're going to need to access this cash, especially within 12 months, because you can access it. So think about that. But it is a good strategy with the rising inflation.
Okay, yeah, 9%, as you said. Yeah, that sounds pretty. There's one good thing about that, right?
Right. Yes.
All right, Charlie, thank you so much. Interesting stuff. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, take care.